Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins History, coin lovers and treasure hunters. If you're the kind of person who loves digging into history, uncovering hidden gems, and possibly turning something ordinary into something extraordinary, then this video is made just for you. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most iconic and underrated coins in American history, the 1952 Lincoln Wheat Penny. This isn't just some old cent you'd pass by without a second thought. This is a coin that, under the right conditions, could be worth more than a luxury car. That's right, so grab your coin jar, sit back, and listen closely. You might be sitting on a copper fortune without even realizing it. Let's start with the basics. The Lincoln Wheat Penny has been a staple in U.S. currency since 1909, introduced to honor President Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday. The 1952 version carries on that tradition, with Lincoln's timeless profile on the obverse and the classic wheat stalks design on the reverse. Simple, elegant, and packed with historical charm, but what makes the 1952 Lincoln Wheat Penny stand out among millions of others? First, let's talk about mint marks. In 1952, pennies were struck at 3 different U.S. mint locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. If your coin has no mint mark under the date, it was made in Philadelphia. A small d means it was minted in Denver, and an s means San Francisco. Now, most people would assume these are all worth about the same. But that's where the story gets interesting. Depending on where your penny was minted, how well it was preserved, and whether it contains any errors, its value could change drastically. Let's break that down. First up, condition. Most pennies from 1952 have seen decades of use. They've been in pockets, piggy banks, cash registers, you name it. They're scratched, worn, discolored, totally normal for circulated coins. But here's where things get exciting. If your 1952 penny is in uncirculated condition, with full detail, original red luster, and no damage, it becomes significantly more valuable. Collectors pay a premium for coins graded MS65 and above by grading companies like PCGS or NGC. These high-grade examples are rare because very few coins survive in pristine condition over 70 years later. But what if your 1952 penny has something even more rare? Let's talk minting errors. Sometimes, when coins are produced at lightning speed by high-powered presses, mistakes happen. And those mistakes? They're worth money. A double die obverse is one of the most sought-after errors. This means the coin was struck twice with slight misalignment, resulting in doubled lettering or design elements, especially around "In God We Trust" or the date. These are incredibly rare and highly collectible. Other valuable errors include off-center strikes, where the image is misaligned or partially missing. You might also find a repunched mint mark, where the D or S was punched into the die more than once, slightly off position. Then there are die cracks, lamination errors, and even clipped planchets, where a chunk of the coin is missing due to a miscut. Each of these errors adds uniqueness, and for collectors, uniqueness is value. Now, let's take it a step further. Imagine a 1952 wheat penny from the San Francisco Mint, in uncirculated condition, with full red coloring and a clean double die error visible to the naked eye. That's not just a cool find, that's a jackpot. The kind of coin that gets sent to auction and makes serious headlines in the coin collecting world. So you're probably wondering, what's the highest known price someone has paid for a rare 1952 Lincoln Wheat Penny? Well, buckle up, because one such coin, combining all the right features, mint condition, a rare mint mark, and a dramatic error, was sold for a life-changing total of $44,000. Yes, you heard that right, $44,000. For a single 1-cent coin. So before you toss that old penny aside or spend it without a second glance, take a moment. Check the date. Look for the mint mark. Examine it closely. That little coin could be more than just a bit of copper, it could be a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. Today, we're unlocking the secrets of one of the most mysterious and fascinating coins in U.S. history, the 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny. Don't be fooled by its size. This humble 1-cent coin could be your ticket to something truly extraordinary. If you've got an old penny lying around from this year, you might want to hold on tight, because you could be holding a piece of American history that's worth more than you ever imagined. Stick with me, because what you're about to discover might just change how you look at pocket change forever. Let's set the stage. The year is 1944. The world is still at war. American soldiers are fighting across Europe and the Pacific. Back home, factories are running day and night to support the war effort. Every material is precious, especially metals like copper, steel, and zinc. The U.S. Mint, too, had to adapt. In 1943, they struck pennies using steel coated with zinc, those famous silver-colored steel cents. But in 1944, they returned to copper, using recycled shell casings from the battlefield to produce billions of pennies. These coins carried the spirit of the American people, resilient, resourceful, and united. Now, here's where the story gets fascinating. While the 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny is one of the most common pennies ever made, not all of them are equal. Hidden among the ordinary are a few special coins that collectors dream of. And it's not just about the date, it's about the mint mark, the condition, and the errors that make these coins worth thousands. Let's talk mint marks first. In 1944, pennies were minted at 3 locations: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D, below the date; and San Francisco, S. Most were produced in massive numbers, over 1 billion in total, but finding one in pristine condition or with a rare error? That's the real treasure. Now let's break down what makes some 1944 Lincoln Wheat pennies so valuable. First up, condition. Coins that were never circulated, stored safely, and still shine with their original red luster are considered uncirculated. These coins, especially those graded MS-65 or higher, are worth far more than your typical pocket change. Collectors go wild for coins that look like they just left the mint yesterday, but condition is only part of the story. The real magic happens when you add in minting errors, and the 1944 penny has some truly jaw-dropping ones. One of the most famous is the 1944 steel penny, a leftover error from 1943 when steel was used instead of copper. A few steel planchets accidentally got mixed into the 1944 copper production and were struck with the 1944 date. These steel 1944 pennies are extremely rare, and if you have one, it's like winning the coin lottery. Then there are the double die errors, where parts of the design, like "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date, appear slightly doubled. You don't need special tools to see it. It's obvious to the naked eye and unmistakably valuable. Other sought-after errors include repunched mint marks, where the D or S was punched into the die more than once, off-center strikes, die cracks, and even clipped planchets, where a piece of the coin is literally missing due to a factory miscut. Now imagine this: a 1944 Lincoln Wheat penny from the Denver Mint, in brilliant uncirculated condition, with a strong double die obverse and a bold repunched D mint mark. That's not just a collector's item, that's a one-of-a-kind treasure. And here comes the moment you've all been waiting for: how much can a coin like that be worth? Well, one such 1944 Lincoln Wheat penny, combining a rare minting error, a perfect mint mark, and a top-tier condition, was sold to an eager collector for an astonishing $58,000. Yes, you heard that right, $58,000. For a single penny. So the next time you come across a worn-down copper coin from 1944, don't just toss it aside. Examine it carefully. Flip it over. Look at the mint mark. Check the edges. That coin could be holding a secret worth tens of thousands of dollars. Today, we're taking a close look at one of the most intriguing coins in U.S. history, the 1951 Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance, this copper beauty might seem like just another coin from Grandma's jar or a flea market find. But don't be too quick to judge, because some of these pennies, especially the rarest ones with minting mistakes and top-grade condition, are turning heads in the collecting world and selling for jaw-dropping amounts. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you might be racing to check your own coin stash. Let's start by zooming in on a bit of backstory. The year is 1951. The United States is still recovering from World War II and entering the Korean War era. It's a time of rebuilding, growth, and national pride. Amid all this, the U.S. Mint continues striking coins that would become everyday essentials for millions of Americans, including the iconic Lincoln Wheat Penny, which had been in production since 1909. The 1951 wheat penny, featuring President Abraham Lincoln on the front and 2 wheat ears flanking 1 cent on the back, is more than just pocket change. It's a piece of American history, representing tradition, legacy, and, in rare cases, serious value. Now, here's where things get interesting. These 1951 pennies were minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, marked with a small d; and San Francisco, marked with an S. While millions were produced at each mint, what makes some of these coins valuable today is not the quantity, but quality and quirks. Let's talk condition first. If your 1951 penny has been through decades of wear, scratched, dull, and dirty, it probably won't fetch much more than face value. But if you've got one that was never circulated, that still glows with its original red luster, that holds sharp details on Lincoln's face and the wheat stalks, well, now you're in exciting territory. Uncirculated pennies graded MS65 or higher, that means mint state, extremely well preserved, are much rarer than you'd expect. Most coins were used for daily transactions and worn down over time. Finding one in near-perfect shape is like finding a time capsule from 1951. But now comes the real thrill: errors and variations. This is where ordinary coins become extraordinary. Some 1951 wheat pennies were struck with double die errors, where the design appears to be slightly duplicated, especially in areas like Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date. If you spot a doubling effect with the naked eye, that's a good sign you might be holding something special. Then there are repunched mint marks, where the D or S was punched twice into the die, resulting in a slightly doubled or shadowed look. These are rare and extremely popular among collectors. Another treasure to look for: off-center strikes, where the design is misaligned because the coin wasn't centered during minting. Or a die crack, which looks like a raised line on the coin's surface, a tiny scar from a damaged die. Some 1951 pennies even have clipped planchets, where part of the coin is missing due to an error when the metal blank was cut. Now imagine combining one of these minting errors with a coin in pristine, uncirculated condition, and maybe even with a harder to find mint mark. That's the kind of penny that doesn't just sit in a collection, it becomes the centerpiece. And yes, these kinds of coins have made serious waves in the market. So, what's the most anyone has paid for one of these rare 1951 Lincoln wheat pennies? Get ready, because a stunning 1951 penny, featuring a rare error, flawless condition, and top-tier grading, was sold to a passionate collector for a remarkable $46,000. That's right, $46,000. For a single cent. Just imagine finding that in an old drawer or in a forgotten coin roll. That's the magic of numismatics, where history, rarity, and condition come together to transform everyday coins into priceless treasures. So before you spend that old penny or overlook it as junk, give it a second look. Examine the mint mark. Check for errors. Look at its shine and sharpness. You might just be holding a small piece of copper worth more than its weight in gold. Today's spotlight is on a coin that might be sitting unnoticed in a drawer, in a family collection, or even inside your wallet without you realizing what it's truly worth. We're diving deep into the world of the 1957 United States Lincoln wheat penny, a small copper coin with a mighty legacy, and in some rare cases, a surprisingly high value. Now, before you say, wait, 1957? That's not that old, let me stop you right there. Because while this coin might not be ancient, it's a part of American history that many collectors treasure, not just for its design, but for the rare mistakes and conditions that can transform it from pocket change into pure gold for collectors. So sit back, relax, and listen carefully. This might be the penny story you didn't know you needed to hear. The 1957 Lincoln wheat penny was struck during a time of post-war prosperity in the U.S. The Cold War was heating up, Elvis Presley was making waves, and the space race was just beginning. In the middle of this cultural shift, the U.S. Mint continued producing the classic Lincoln cent, featuring the beloved design of Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse, and the traditional wheat stalks framing 1 cent on the reverse. This design, which ran from 1909 to 1958, is now a collector's favorite, especially the later year wheat pennies like the 1957. Now, here's the thing about this coin. It was struck in 2 places: Philadelphia, which produced coins with no mint mark, and Denver, which added a small d under the date. The Denver Mint struck more coins that year, but both versions are still widely found today. So why are we talking about it? Isn't it just a common wheat penny? Well, yes and no. Millions were minted, yes. But most of them were used, worn out, scratched, and tossed around for decades. What collectors are really after are the uncommon survivors, those 1957 pennies that were never circulated, perfectly preserved, or struck with rare minting errors. That's where the value starts to climb, and where this story gets very exciting. Let's start with condition. A 1957 penny in circulated condition might be worth a few cents to a couple of dollars. But if it's in mint state, with vibrant red color and sharp detail, especially graded MS65 or higher, it becomes much more valuable. These are the coins that never made it to someone's pocket. They were stored away right after minting, carefully preserved for decades, but now let's talk about the real game changer, minting errors. The 1957 Lincoln Wheat Penny has some fascinating and rare errors that collectors go crazy for. One of the most desirable is the double die obverse, where parts of the design, especially the words, Liberty, or, In God We Trust, appear doubled. These are visible even without a magnifying glass and are clear signs of a valuable coin. Then there are the repunched mint marks. In 1957, mint workers sometimes had to manually punch the D mint mark onto the dies. In some cases, they punched it more than once, creating a noticeable shadow or doubling effect on the mint mark. These small imperfections are huge wins for collectors. Other rare errors include off-center strikes, where the image is misaligned and part of the design is missing. Or clipped planchets, where a piece of the coin is literally missing from the edge. Some pennies even have die cracks, which show as raised lines on the surface, little scars left behind by aging or damaged dies. Each of these unique errors increases a coin's rarity, and rarity is what drives the biggest prices in the world of numismatics. So let's imagine for a moment, a 1957 D Lincoln Wheat Penny, in flawless uncirculated condition, with a bold double die error, and a crisp red color that glows like it was struck yesterday. That's a coin that turns heads. That's a coin that gets graded, authenticated, and ends up in the hands of a serious collector or at a major auction. And what can that kind of coin sell for? Get ready, because one of these ultra-rare 1957 wheat pennies, with just the right combination of error and condition, was sold to a passionate collector for a stunning $42,000. That's right, $42,000. For a single penny. So what's the takeaway? It's simple: check your pennies. Look closely at the date. Look under the date for the mint mark. Examine every detail, because something that looks ordinary could actually be extraordinary. Coins like these aren't just money. They're time machines. They're historical artifacts. And in some rare cases, they're hidden treasures that can change your life. Today, we've got a thrilling journey through time to talk about one of the most fascinating and valuable pennies from the U.S. Mint, the 1953 Lincoln Wheat Penny. This little piece of copper might just be hiding in your collection or an old jar, and it could be worth a lot more than you might think. At first glance, the 1953 penny might seem like just another coin in a long line of Lincoln wheat cents. But let me tell you, there's much more to this coin than meets the eye. There's history, there's rarity, and there are certain characteristics that can make this coin a serious player in the world of numismatics. So, stick with me as we explore the 1953 Lincoln Wheat Penny and why it could be worth a lot more than just 1 cent. The Lincoln Wheat Penny, which first debuted in 1909, has a long and rich history. Over the years, this simple coin has evolved and gained tremendous significance in the world of collectors. The 1953 penny was struck during the mid-20th century, a time when America was in the midst of recovery and expansion after World War II. By this point, the design had become iconic: Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the obverse, surrounded by the words, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," and on the reverse, the familiar wheat stalks flanking the words, 1 cent. The 1953 penny, however, is particularly special to collectors for a few key reasons. First, this coin came out of the U.S. Mint during the early years of the Cold War, and that era had an undeniable impact on everything, including the way coins were minted. Though millions were produced, not all 1953 pennies are created equal. Some of them contain features that make them much more desirable to collectors, and ultimately, far more valuable. Let's dive into the first crucial factor here: mint marks. The 1953 penny was minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. If you have a 1953 penny from Philadelphia, it will have no mint mark, just the year, 1953, on the obverse. However, if your penny has a small d mint mark, it means it was minted in Denver, and if there's an S on it, that indicates the coin was minted in San Francisco. Out of these 3, the Denver and San Francisco versions tend to be slightly rarer, which makes them more sought after by collectors, but here's where things get even more exciting. Just because a coin is rare doesn't mean it's automatically worth a lot of money. It all comes down to condition. And when I say condition, I mean uncirculated condition. That if your 1953 penny has been in circulation for decades, it's probably seen somewhere and tear. It may have scratches, discoloration, or dents, common signs that the coin has been spent and tossed around. But if you're lucky enough to find a mint state penny, one that has been kept in pristine condition and was never used in transactions, then you're talking about a coin that could fetch significantly more on the market. But condition isn't the only thing that can raise the value of a 1953 Lincoln Wheat penny. There's another critical factor that makes this coin extra valuable: errors. Coins with minting errors can be worth exponentially more than their standard counterparts. And believe it or not, the 1953 penny is no stranger to these valuable flaws. Some of the most sought-after errors include double die coins. If you're not familiar with this term, a double die error happens when a coin is struck multiple times, causing certain parts of the design to appear doubled. This is especially noticeable in the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." These doubled inscriptions are incredibly rare and can significantly increase the value of the penny. Another error to look for is a repunched mint mark, or RPM. This occurs when the mint mark is struck more than once, resulting in a shadow or doubling of the letter D or S on the coin. The more noticeable the doubling, the more valuable the coin. But wait, there's more. Some 1953 pennies also feature off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't properly aligned during the minting process. The result is a coin with a design that is shifted or partially missing. This error is highly collectible and can make a seemingly common coin worth much more than you'd expect. Finally, let's talk about rarity. As mentioned earlier, millions of 1953 pennies were minted, but finding one in mint condition or with an error is much rarer than you might think. Because many were circulated and have been worn down over time, a well-preserved 1953 penny with no signs of damage or wear is something special, and that's what numismatists go crazy for. So, what's the value of a 1953 Lincoln Wheat penny in excellent condition? What if you have one that's not just in good shape, but also features a rare error or a unique mint mark? Well, buckle up, because the value can be staggering. In fact, a 1953 Lincoln Wheat penny in flawless, uncirculated condition with a rare error, such as a double die or repunched mint mark, has been known to sell for as much as $46,000. Yes, that's right, $46,000 for a single penny. So, before you dismiss that old penny jar or toss that 1953 coin into your loose change pile, take a closer look. It could be worth more than you ever imagined, and you might just be holding onto a rare treasure that's a numismatic jackpot waiting to be discovered. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1953 Lincoln Wheat penny and want to keep learning about valuable coins, rare errors, and collecting tips, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on these incredible coin stories. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep hunting. Stay curious, and happy collecting.